Hello, sports card collectors and investors. Hope you all are having a great day today. It's Friday. We've almost made it to the weekend. Wanted to put another video. This is kind of a short one. Another one where I want to just kind of get some feedback from you all because I'm interested in hearing what the audience has to say, what the viewers have to say, and get into the comments and debate with you all, or or at least agree with you if I do agree with you. So. Today I'm going to be talking about which NBA players are overhyped right now, and as it relates to their card prices. So, in other words, I know we always talk about the values out there, and of course there seems to be a lot of values all the time. There's different kind of angles to take. When we say value, of course, it all depends on future results, but I think that there are some players that are kind of being overlooked, and those are kind of those value picks. But then, of course, there's probably a lot of players, and it's not probably, there are some of these players that are overhyped to where they're not going to have a Hall of Fame career, but man, their cards are selling like they are. And so which one of these young guys, I picked out, I picked out the obvious four, I guess. Four of the young guys that trade quite a bit, that have a lot of transactions, that are very popular as young players. And I've got Luka, Zion, Ja Morant, Trae Young. So out of those four guys, we'll talk about just kind of each one, spitballing on, what might happen, and kind of different things. And I want to hear from you all. This is like with most of my videos, these are just to open up the discussion, and that's really it. I enjoy making the videos, but a lot of it too is just kind of having a part in that community and talking it through with you all. But before I get into it, I'm going to give you one underrated player that nobody is talking about, that I've heard anyway. And I watch quite a bit of this stuff through YouTube, and I'm paying attention to what's going on in the media and all of that. And my underrated pick of the day is Klay Thompson. He's the Splash Brother, but the Splash Brothers are forgotten about. These guys, nobody cares about them. Steph gets a little bit more credit, but the guy's got an MVP. He's got 3 titles. Klay Thompson also has 3 titles and is an all-star in his own right. So but it's just funny to me how he's not on anybody's radar that I've seen. And I watch a lot of this stuff. So he is a guy that I'm looking at. And I'm just throwing that out there. Actually, I don't own any Klay Thompson cards at all, but I was thinking about it today. I was like, why the heck am I not looking more at Klay's stuff? And I did a quick look, and I know that, his rookies they're not inexpensive by any stretch, but they're still, there's probably some value there just in the sense that he's been injured. We talk a lot about Steph and Kevin Durant. We talk a heck of a lot about Kevin Durant. He's coming off injury. In his cards, he's one of the all-time great players, and he is, but in the future, as we're looking back, I think that there is going to be more love put on the Golden State Warriors. By the way, I'm not a Golden State Warriors fan. I know that in some of my videos I talk a lot about them, just because I'm high on them right now, because they're just, because they're not in the playoffs, there's nothing good going on that team right now as far as the news right this second. They're just not being looked at from what I can see. Now, maybe there are people that are picking up those cards, and I don't know all the transaction numbers and all of that. But Steph, you'll hear people talk about Steph, and rightly so. The guy is a top 5 player in the NBA. But Klay Thompson, kind of that unheralded guy, that can light it up. The guy can absolutely light it up. Doesn't get near enough credit. Great defensive player, perennial all-star. The guy's a machine. So that's my underrated pick of the day. I wanted to throw that in there for you all, and let me know what you think. Maybe some of you think I'm nuts. Like, hey, he's done. The Warriors have already done all they're going to do. And I don't know. I think that they're going to make a run next year. I think they're going to come back, and I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder with Draymond and the Splash Brothers. And they've got a high draft pick. Let's see what happens. Steve Kerr's a great coach, and I would be shocked if they were not a very good team next year. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But all right, so let's get to the topic at hand. So I'm going to start with Luka. When we were talking about. And the thing that's kind of interesting is, I remember last August, okay, before the season was starting, there was so much talk about Luka's card prices already being high. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the sports card market has gone in the last 18 months. There was so much talk about, do I want to buy Luka? I mean, his stuff is pretty expensive. And obviously nobody had a clue as to really how high his stuff was going to go. And so, with him, I think that the part of that is, as I compare these players, not necessarily the player's fault. I think it's more of they came at a time when, if I'm looking at Luka and Trae, for example, you're looking at two different draft classes. Same thing happened with Trae. I mean, my gosh, Trae stuff was dirt cheap, in August, last summer. I mean, that stuff you could have picked up. I mean, Luka, I picked up a couple of Luka-based prisms in August, September, maybe it was early October, for $70, PSA 10s. I picked up 3 of them, actually. So, but Trae, and Trae wasn't even on my radar at that point. I zeroed in on a few players. Trae wasn't even on my radar, but I'm thinking Traes were probably $40 or something. I mean, they were probably nothing, back then. So I think part of the issue too with, I guess, kind of with making these comparisons is Zion and Ja's rookie years were coming through the bulk of the market already exploding. So the second that Zion and Ja stuff came out and then they started playing and Ja, kind of surprised people and started playing better than expected, his stuff just went through the roof, early on. I missed the boat on his, actually. His just kind of base stuff, even just raw, was very reasonable towards the beginning of the season. And then, he started to play well. And then maybe part of it was Zion got hurt. And so people then moved to kind of that next guy, and it was Ja, and he was playing really well. A lot of people talked about him being Rookie of the Year, the way he was playing. And so, it just built up that, that hype for his cards. And so there you have it. And from what I've seen, and I don't track Ja on a daily basis or anything, but I just haven't seen many deals on his stuff, as far as just finding stuff at, in kind of my budget price point where I'd like to get some of his stuff. I just haven't seen it. So, with Zion and Ja, I think they kind of have those issues of the card market already having exploded with all the Zion mania when Zion started out. Now, it still kind of shocks me, to be honest, that Zion's prices are so high. I mean, when he got hurt, his prices came down, but I was paying attention to his prices because I was thinking like, okay, if this gets low enough, then I'm definitely going to get in on some Zion. And they're definitely lower than they are now, for sure, but they didn't reach a point where they were giving them away or anything. So I mean, I just never really got in on him. And then of course it bounced back. He started playing. He had a good few months before the season was suspended. And so, he's shown flashes for sure, but everyone in the back of their mind has got to be worried about his injury history, and how that's going to affect him moving forward. Is this guy going to have a 20-year career like LeBron? I mean, I don't think that he will. I don't think that there's evidence that he will. Maybe he will. I mean, there's a lot of players that had injuries earlier in their career, and then got over those and have done really well. Steph Curry was one of those guys. I remember he had bad ankles and he had ankle injuries earlier in his career, and then he was able to kind of get past those. So, I mean, I know that can happen, but with Zion just being a huge guy, I just don't know. I mean, I love the kid. I think that he's a great character guy. And I think he's a great talent. I just don't know. He's just got such like a high torque game where he's just, he's making all the moves, and he's, 280 pounds or 265 or, wherever he is. I mean, and there's just so much, energy put on his knees and everything else. So I'm not confident in Zion in the future. Now, with Luka's game is different. He plays he plays at his own pace. If you watch Luka drive the lane, Luka's not racing down the lane and dunking on people. Sure, he does it occasionally, but it's almost like watching someone in slow-mo sometimes. And then on the pick and rolls, he takes his time on the pick and roll. He's not forcing anything. That dude plays at his own pace. And he plays, it's just a fairly, and I could be completely wrong on this, but it looks like he's playing more of kind of a safer game. Of course, anyone can land wrong. Anyone can get in a collision. but he is playing at a different type of pace. He just kind of takes it almost looks like he's kind of floating in the lane, and just slow motion, getting to the basket, just makes the right move, makes the guy miss. So I'm just more high on Luka for that reason, and really more high on Luka than all of these guys for that reason. And I know that, I'm following that hype machine that a lot of people are, and everyone loves Luka right now, and I get it. But he, out of these four, he's my number one as far as where I want to invest. Trae Young has also done some really good things, and I think that he's going to have a long career in the league. I think that he will move on from the Hawks at some point, and that'll be an interesting thing. I think that he'll move on from them, and whichever team he goes to, if he's perennially playing in the playoffs, and he could have a Steph Curry type career. It's possible, and I'm just kind of making that comparison because they have the same similar game, and so Trae Young, I think, he's got potential. And look, if you're looking at his pricing, if you're comparing to the other three guys, he's a pretty good value, really. If you look at a lot of the stuff, compare them just apples to apples. Optic hollows, optic, blue velocity. Check just regular optic PSA 10s. Look and compare those to the other guys, and there's some pretty good values there from what I see. So I really like Trae Young. I think that there's still some good stuff there. I don't think that he's overhyped. I think, if anything, that he might be the most underhyped of all of these. Luka and Zion are the hyped ones. They're the most overhyped. But I still think that, Trae Young, he does get a lot of love. He's definitely hyped up. But his card prices, in comparison to that hype, I don't believe you're paying a premium right now, for those cards. Ja Morant, again, I think that I'm just not sure. First off, he's a rookie, so you got to see kind of, same as Zion. Can he do this over years? Is this a fluke, or is he the real deal? I do think he's the real deal. I think he's going to have a long NBA career. I think he's going to be very good. I think with him, though, I would want to see him for a few more years before I put heavy money into him. If I'm going to go ahead and go all in on some of his stuff, I would want to see that and kind of see how that team evolves too, how the Grizzlies evolve, and see. It's just, the talent gap in the NBA is getting it's tighter and tighter and tighter. The West is brutal. You literally have the top 8 seeds in the West have a shot to could win the title. They're all good teams. So, it'll be interesting to see. But what do you guys think? I want to hear in the comments, who's overhyped to you? To me, the number one overhyped guy right now is Zion, just because his injury history, he reminds me so much of a Larry Johnson. Just the way that he plays, and Larry Johnson was an absolute force to be reckoned with back in the 90s, but he had a 10-year career and he was done, and it was just because he had a lot of injuries throughout his career, because he played he had a fierce game. He was an animal, and Zion has a similar game. Can he adjust? Can he adjust his game? Should he adjust his game? Anyway, these are all things I want to hear your feedback on it. Who do you think is overhyped out of these four, or do you think that none of them are overhyped and you feel good about all four of them? Either way, let me know, guys. I appreciate you tuning in, and we will talk soon. Thanks.